Hey guys, this is the Casual Fan. The 2022 Formula 1 French Grand Prix might just be the last time we see Formula 1 in Paul Ricard. The track is rumored to be off the 2023 Formula 1 calendar as, whether we like it or not, the sport tries to expand to new geographies. Well, having said that, the race is still an integral part of the 2022 season, and the race awards same points for finishing first as any other race on the calendar. Well, basically, what I'm trying to say is the race is freaking important. It's not a run of the mill race, it will hold the same weightage as any other race on the calendar. Now, the race marks the start of the second half of the season and comes at a very critical juncture in the championship. Charles Leclerc has reduced Max Verstappen's lead in the last two races to 38 points now. Although the gap is still quite big, reducing the gap is still a first step in the right direction. Especially after having those, how many races? I think 6 to 7 races where he could not even finish on the podium. So what can we expect at the French Grand Prix this weekend? Well, let's find out as I share what are my top 5 bold predictions for this race weekend. Well, Europe is suffering from a heat wave right now, and the track for the Formula 1 French Grand Prix is going to be no exception this weekend. The high temperatures and the high speed sections, like the entire sector 3 of the track, are going to put a premium on tire life. We saw something similar happen in Barcelona as well earlier this year, but even then the temperatures were not this high in Spain. For the French Grand Prix, tire life is going to be one of the biggest talking points this weekend. If we take past form into consideration, then teams like Ferrari, they have somewhat struggled in the heat, while Red Bull and Mercedes, they have performed comparatively better. Especially if you keep in mind what happened in Barcelona, where, if you remember correctly, Carlos Sainz struggled like anything, while Mercedes and Red Bull, they had pretty strong pace pretty much throughout the race. Now, again, while it would be foolish to make predictions on what really happens with the teams when it comes to tackling with the heat, I feel it's fair to say that tire degradation, more or less, it will bring some sense of unpredictability to the race on Sunday. Now, Aston Martin has bore the brunt of abuse from the Sebastian Vettel fans. Well, even I'm one of them, to be very fair. The performance has been poor, to say the least. The driver has faced Q1 elimination in the last 3 races, and the car just does not appear to have the speed to do any more in qualifying. Having said that, if we keep a close eye on it, the race pace of Aston Martin is, it's not that bad. On paper, it might appear that no points in 2 out of the last 3 races does not look good for Vettel. But beneath the surface, there are surely positives as well. In Canada, the tire pressure disaster ruined the weekend for Vettel, and even though Stroll, he scraped through with a point, the race was not that impressive. But from the British Grand Prix onwards, if we keep a close eye on the performance, then you see that at least in the long runs, Aston Martin is still quite competitive. In the British Grand Prix, Vettel, he pulled off a great salvaging act. He finished P9, if I remember correctly. But I think if it was not for the late race safety car, he would have finished P7. Now that is a very impressive result, especially if you consider the midfield teams. That does show that Aston Martin is not a chump. It still has some inherent speed with which it can actually compete for points. Now finally, talking about Austria. Austria was a complete disaster. If you remember correctly, I certainly feel Vettel would have scored points in both the sprint as well as the feature race if he had not been punted off the track by Albon in the sprint and Gasly in the feature race. Overall, if I'm honest, Aston Martin in qualifying, I don't think it is going to impress. I think it might still continue to struggle. But intrinsically, the pace is still there. And if you have to go by my view, in a race where tire degradation is going to be a factor, I feel Sebastian Vettel is going to make his way through the field and score points. Now, how many or how high up the order, I am not sure, but at least in my view, at the French Grand Prix, Vettel is going to score points. Now, when you talk about Alpine, well, Alpine does not have the best reliability in Formula 1. Far from it. Having said that, the rate of improvement and growth that it has shown in the last few races, it is very impressive. McLaren, well, it held strong at the top of the midfield for some time now. Pretty much the last 2 years we've seen McLaren lead the midfield. And even this season it was more or less doing that in the championship, although the car was still quite erratic in nature. Now, having said that, the last few races, well, they have been a bit of a jolt to McLaren because, well, Alpine has roared into contention with some very, very impressive performances, and more than that, a healthy influx of upgrades at periodic intervals. The inflection point in this battle, at least in my view, was what happened in Silverstone. Because if we remember correctly, the track surface as well as the track layout, it was supposed to favor McLaren, but Alonso stayed in contention with Lando Norris, and in the end, with the help of strategy of course, he was able to jump him as well. Right now, Alpine is overall a better package and works at almost every track. The only issue, reliability, and I think more or less they will figure it out someday. This weekend, however, right now we have Alpine and McLaren at same number of points. After the race on Sunday, I am predicting Alpine is going to make that expected jump and it is going to leapfrog McLaren in the championship and will be P4 by the time we come back on Monday. Okay, now talking about Mercedes, there are quite a few positives to look at. The team has scored a podium in all of the last 3 races. There is a clear jump in performance, and finally, the porpoising and bouncing effect, well, it is not bothering the team too much. Some of the best showcase of cars' performance, at least for Mercedes, it was in Barcelona and in Silverstone. 2 races where the fast speed sections worked like a charm, and bouncing was not too much of an issue. For the French Grand Prix, the track layout is somewhat conducive to the fast speed sections, just like Silverstone or Barcelona were. To add to this, there seems to be a major upgrade coming for Mercedes, and that should further help the team as well. Now, the final piece of the puzzle? Well, the German team appears to have a car that is kinder on its tires as compared to others. The team is able to pull out a good stint length compared to other cars. And in conditions where tire life could play a role, Mercedes will definitely be in play. Now, if you want my prediction for the French Grand Prix, expect Lewis Hamilton and George Russell to join Red Bull and Ferrari at the front of the grid, as, at least in my view, the team should be more competitive here than it has been throughout the season. Now, this is going to disappoint a few of the Ferrari as well as Charles Leclerc fan, but I think this is going to happen. Sure, Ferrari has the momentum on its side, but it does not take away from the fact that Red Bull still has a competitive car. The track layout for the French Grand Prix rewards the cars that have strong straight line speed and are able to have great efficiency in the fast speed corners. To add to this, as I said earlier as well, the rising temperatures are going to add another variable in the race. If we take a look back at the trend that has followed this season, Ferrari seems to hold the edge when the temperatures are somewhat lower, while Red Bull has struggled in these conditions, especially in races like Austria, where, if you remember, the temperatures were lower at the start of the race, or in Australia, where Red Bull was woefully off the pace of Ferrari. Now, for the French Grand Prix, that's just not the case. The temperatures will not be low, they will be ridiculously high, and that should play in Red Bull's favor. Now, unless we see something out of the ordinary in terms of conditions, or we see a reliability issue, or we see an accident, I feel Max Verstappen should hold the edge, at least in the race, and will win the F1 French Grand Prix. Now, these are my views. What do you guys think? What are your top 5 bold predictions for the race? Do share in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.